Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Brew with Memli. And today I'm going to show you how to make the best siphon and show you that we can actually make excellent coffee using the vacuum pot or siphon brewing method. So we are going to start with a ratio of 1 to 12 to 1 to 13. Here I'm using 15 grams of coffee for 200 grams of water. The water is pre-boiled and then we're going to boil it twice, basically. We're always starting with hot water to use less gas. The grind size I'm using is relatively fine. I'm on 7 on my Decanting Sweet Lab, which is equivalent to a 14-ish on a Baratza, or 20 to 22 clicks on a Comandante. The idea is to create a strong but delicious cup of coffee. To do so, we are going to boil our lower chamber with intense flame. My filter here is preheated and pre-rinsed. Always have also a decanter, something to decant on. And I opted here for our Colombian Pink Bourbon, our anaerobic natural. That will give a very intense and sweet cup of coffee and avoid that slightly funkiness that you can find sometimes on pour-overs with anaerobic natural. Of course, to brew more coffee, you just work on the math, but using 15 grams for 200 grams of water. And once you start seeing those big bubbles, you're going to place slowly your upper chamber. This method is called decoction. This method is called decoction, similar to the Ibrik Jezve, by using the external source of heat to both extract and warm sort of the coffee through immersion, but also agitate. But I'm going to reduce my agitation, and here all my water is on the top, except a little bit here, which is okay. This is a larger batch, or larger volume, but you can. This is a larger siphon, but you can use a smaller one for 1 cup. And I'm going to reduce my heat to a medium. Then, as soon as you're placing your coffee, you're going to start your timer. There you go. And we're going to stir vigorously for 5 seconds only. And then reduce after that first initial phase. You see there's a lot of agitation, so you don't need as much energy here. At 30 seconds in the mark, I'm going to put it at the minimum heat. But you still see some agitation. And around 1 minute, I will turn it off. So it's a very quick brewing method. And that's because we are using a lighter anaerobic coffee and a relatively aggressive brewing method. At 1 minute, I'm turning off my flame and I'm going to agitate vigorously once again for about 5 seconds. The rest, you can kind of cool it down by placing a wet towel or towel underneath. That will stop the extraction. Because you want to finish your extraction below 2 minutes and a half. At 1 minute and 30 seconds, 27 to be precise, we start moving on from the immersion style to the drip through the filter. And ultimately, I want to finish around 2 minutes. Of course, the more coffee you're using, the more the longer it will take. And here it's a small dose on a big siphon, so you won't have like that dome, but usually you will see a dome here. And we are done at 1 minute and 59 seconds, 2 minutes basically. One thing to do as soon as you finish is to decant your coffee. So let's measure how much water we have out of our 200 grams. we have 170, 169 out. So it's a perfect it's a perfect 2. It's a perfect 2 times the dose in terms of absorption. And then I really chill it down because otherwise it can be dangerous to have something too hot. The smell is just beautiful. You have that sort of intense heat. This coffee can be good as it is, like that, and serve it. What I like to do is to add a little bit of water, about 10%, because when we boil the water, some evaporated a little bit. So to find back that strength, I'm just going to add 10%, and that's about 17 grams. It makes a slight difference, especially with intense anaerobic coffees like this one. Here we go. So we're done, let it cool down and come back with some results. Before we are tasting, let's address the elephant in the room. For Siphon, one thing that everyone is scared about or skeptical is how to clean this thing. So what you're going to do is to unclip the filter, shake your grounds on top of a trash can, and then you have like a dirty filter here, right? You're gonna put it aside, flip it upside down. You're first going to clean your lower chamber the same way you will clean your V60 with hot water, maybe some soap if it's really, really dirty, but usually simple hot water is enough, and that's good. What you'll do is to unclip the filter, and then you have this little, dirty stuff. You can just pass it on a warm. You can just pass it with a warm towel. It will do the job, or with a little bit of water once again. For this part, what I like to do is to use a warm towel or just a towel with some water, like I just did right now, and kind of clean the inside. Then I'll just take another towel to just dry out. Same thing with the filter. It's ready to be used again. Easy, right? Everything under about a minute, maybe a minute 30. And here I wanted to show you that this method is not too complicated. It takes the same time as all the prep and the grooming that we do for espresso. Little prep with the filter, grinding the same way, boiling it, putting it 1 minute, stir in the beginning, stir at the end, et voila. And then some cleaning. You will never find a coffee brewed for 1 minute with that level of complexity. 1 minute pour over, well, you know how it will taste, right? Very intense, very acidic, especially on a light roasted anaerobic natural pink bourbon from Colombia. Here you have a super balanced, super sweet cup of coffee with a very silky texture. You have less that cherry liquor taste that you find in all the anaerobic coffees, cherry liquor, cocoa nibs. Here you have something slightly more complex because we had this immersion style and then drip with the external source of heat that agitate the coffee. That's why, even though it's 1 minute, it's actually a lot of agitation. And here you find what we find on the cupping table for this coffee, things like tropical fruits like papaya, a little bit of cherry still, but not that licorice part, some nutmeg on the spices, and a very sweet chocolate finish. And a very sweet chocolatey finish. The acidity is medium. The texture is quite medium-high. And you see, that was once again on my concept of balance. Because the acidity was a little bit lower than on the pour-over, what happened is that we detect and we perceive the flavor differently. On the pour-over, you perceive much more those cherries, those very bright and tart fruits. But because we increase our texture, we decrease our brightness, what happens is that we perceive much more that papaya, round fruits rather than the very intense spiciness from the nutmeg or the tartness from the cherry. And that's, once again, that concept of balance I would like to rediscuss once again. I would like to rediscuss because balance, it also depends on the other attributes of the coffee. Lowering the acidity makes us perceive lower acidic notes in that coffee, vice versa. A thicker texture makes a thicker texture will make us perceive more of that chocolatier, rounder, syrupier note of that dedicated coffee that we taste on the cupping table. So whatever those taste notes are on a bag of coffee, you can adapt it through your method, through your extraction to highlight certain notes. I hope you enjoyed this brewing method. Let me know in the comments if you ever tried the Siphon or the vacuum pot. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to your coffee friends. And see you next time for more brewing.